actually, the most difficult thing is to write to a title like that.
Yeah, really.
Because you've got to...
It's an unlikely title.
Writing backwards, you know, it doesn't just arrive. In a nice song, you go, diddle-diddle, I believe in yesterday. Ooh, that's a good title. But, you know, you're working the other way. You've got to try and figure the whole thing out from the title. And
not a romantic title either. I mean, it must be a little difficult.
So, but it just came easily. You know, I just sort of thought, right, I'll go that way. When you were young, you used to say live and let live. Now you say live and let die. That's kind of enough to start me off.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about a few other songs too, because I just think the idea of where they came from would be interesting to toy around with. One of them was Maybe I'm Amazed. Did your songs all come from the same place? I mean, you just sit down and get an idea, or are they all created differently?
Yeah, hopefully they're all created differently. I mean, because it's boring if they all just come from the same place every time. It's just like churning it out. If you're lucky, you get an inspiration, you know, either if you sit down at the piano or guitar, whatever it is you're going to play on. Just something happens, you'll get a little, you know, ding, a little light bulb will go off and you go, oh, okay, great, that's my direction. This was written very early on when Linda and I just got together, and it was kind of what we sort of call our funky period. We were living pretty funky with just the kids. Little two-bedroom house. It wasn't at all the sort of rich Beatles living at all. We were getting away from that whole thing. Like the Beatles, you used to get your Christmas tree bought for you by the office. And you just thought, well, this is how everyone lives, you know. And we now, when Linda and I got together, it was like, sod it, we'll just go down the street. I've seen them, they're £8, you know. Let's go and pick up our own Christmas tree. So we were living very like that and just doing it. Funny, actually, we just saw Ringo and Barbara, and that's their big new buzz.
They're buying their own Christmas trees.
They're absolutely. Well, it's funny though. You know, most people watching would think, well, everyone buys their own, but it was something we had to break out of, being too dependent on the office and the machinery. So this was written just about that period, and it was about me and Linda really. And I just sat down at the piano and got this "Maybe I'm Amazed" phrase that kind of stayed through the whole thing. And then I wanted, you know, you hung me on a line. I wanted a few sort of, you know, less pretty things, because it wasn't all pretty what we were going through. It was fairly, it was a little bit tough because of the breakup of the Beatles and Apple, and you know, it was fairly hair-raising, you know.
Baby, I'm amazed at the way you love me all the time. And maybe I'm afraid of the way I love you. Baby, I'm amazed at the way you pulled me out of time. You hung me on the line. Baby, I'm amazed at the way I really need you. Well, she was just 17. You know what I mean.
The legal troubles settled with the Beatles? I mean, apparently they are, and you're all buddies again, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I mean, it was a long time coming. Yeah. It was 20 years coming. Yeah. And boy,
it's incredible, isn't
some lawyers somewhere made some money on that one. That was a fun case for them. Yeah, it just took so long. You know, you'd think you had it fixed, and then someone would sort of say, ah, well, I want this. I want an extra million or something. You go, oops, 5 more months of negotiations about that point. But yeah, it suddenly all came to an end just recently, you know, just before we went on tour.
Did you all call each other up and say, I'm glad it's over?
No, we didn't. It's boring, isn't it? We should have done. We should have done. We're not like that. It's funny, you know, it's like, you know, talk about working at MTV. It's all glamorous and stuff. When you actually do it, it's not quite as glamorous as you think it is.
Not quite.
And yeah, we should have broken champagne and had parties and stuff. We didn't. Nobody rang anyone. It's like, next time I saw him, I said, hey, that's good, isn't it? You know, we're out of it. That's great. But it's much more kind of casual.
Do you see each other, okay? I mean, are you like a Traveling Wilburys fan? Do you follow George's career or like Ringo's thing?
Yeah, I'm interested in seeing what they're doing. You know, I was pleased that Ringo's tour went down well last year. I was pleased for him, you know. I'm pleased that he's drying out and straightening up, because he admits he was kind of making a bit of a mess of his life, you know, and a good guy like him, it's sad to see him goofing it. But I mean, you know, we all know about sort of these angers that we can suppress in life, you know, and it comes out in those kind of forms. So he's great. He's in great form. Seems really good to me. Just saw him the other night, actually. And George is out the country a lot. I haven't seen him for a while. But I keep up with what he does, you know. And I wish him well, you know. We're pretty good friends, really. I think we all wish each other well. There were times in there when it was all so fraught that we didn't wish each other well at all. But that's calmed down, you know. We don't have really anything to fight about anymore.
I mean, you've known each other so long, my God.
I know.
You know?
Well, that was always the sadness of it, you know. How about that? 20 years, and you're arguing with your best mates for 20 years. I mean, that goes for you, that stuff. But it was really such a stupid thing and such a pity, you know, but it's the way life goes sometimes. But it's cleaned up now.
What did you make of the Yoko's plan to broadcast Imagine around the world? Do you think John would go for this sort of thing, or do you think it was a nice gesture?
Well, you know, I think, yeah, gesture and all of that, I think that's fine, you know. The show she did from Liverpool, my feeling about it was that John wouldn't have enjoyed it.
No.
I think a number of people on the bill he would have enjoyed. I mean, I don't want to go down the bill and say who he would have and who he wouldn't.
Who did he really hate? But,
yeah,
no,
but I think there were one or two on that bill that he might have not, he might have thrown up over. You know, because it was not John. It was not in any way John. It was nothing to do with what he was to do with. But it was a tribute, and John was a great guy, and, you know, he would have been 50 this year.
Yeah.
I can't believe that, but it's true.
It's incredible.
But, so, you know, as far as all that was concerned, that was good, really, to do. But I hate to say, I think some of those things can ruin his reputation rather than enhance it. And I mean, I'm not just talking for me now. You know, this isn't just a personal point of view.
It's like seeing him sort of wheeled out as a symbol and sort of used to say, we're going to create this. I know, it seems like
it's a strange thing, man. I got a letter recently sort of inviting me to this United Nations thing. And it was written to me, and it was like, come and hear, you know, this is a tribute to John Lennon. And it's like, I know who you're talking about if you say John. I kind of, you know, I'm personal. But, you know, I get the same sort of form letter that everyone gets, and it's a little bit, you know, it's a little bit of a piss off occasionally. But I'd say, you know, as far as the tribute's concerned, as far as love for John's concerned, that's why I did it on the tour each night. Yeah. I figured, well, if I'm going to do a tribute, it might as well be my tribute. I don't need to go on other people's tribute shows. I might as well just do it right to the audience, so there's no problem then, you know.
In doing that, did you think, gosh, I wish we had done that when we were all together? Like maybe the Beatles should have done another tour or something?
Yeah, well, that's why we broke up. I wanted that to happen. I wanted to actually go back on a kind of roots tour to the little gigs. Yeah. And that was one of the things we broke up over, was that the guys didn't all agree with that. They wanted to stay big and stuff. I felt we'd lost it.
Yeah. Could that have been done? Could you have gone and played clubs, do you think, without chaos setting in?
Yeah, sure. I mean, chaos might have set in, but what's wrong with a bit of chaos?
Love, love me do. You know I love you. I'll always be true. So please, love me do.
I wanted to show you this. I imagine your kids have made peace with this by now, but do you remember these?
Yes, I do remember them all too well. It's marvellous. They show up on tour, these.
Yeah,
in fact, there was people like this on tour in the front rows. Hi, how you doing? Okay.
Was there ever a point where your kids said, geez, you know, Dad, what was going on there? They're making dolls of you, and you were like a god back then.
I think they're like most people. They look at the telly and stuff, and they kind of understand what's going on. They see Dad was famous in the Beatles, you know, and when they were very young, there used to be things like that. What am I doing with little... Welcome to Captain Kangaroo.
Are they over that period now? I mean, do they now just take
me? No, this isn't me, is it? This is George or someone.
I don't know. It belongs to this gentleman over here. Who is it, John?
This very infantile producer of yours. Sit. It's okay.
But are your kids very matter-of-fact about it now? Is it just
well, they know now. Because just say they watch telly. They're like anyone else. You know, they know what's going on. But when they were very little, I remember them. We were in Scotland on holiday once, and they were coming by on a pony. They were really little. And the littlest one of them, I can't remember who it was. It was Stella at the time. She said, "You're Paul McCartney."
Really?